Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Internal Rambles. This is your girl Rochelle. If you are new, welcome. And if you're returning, thank you for tuning back in. Today, this is a very different type of a podcast post. I am recording and releasing this on November 2nd. And this is to give condolences and to celebrate the artist Takeoff. As most of you, if not all of you, may not know by now, or I'm sure you know by now, Takeoff was unfortunately and tragically killed on November 1st. And my podcast releases every Thursdays, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So tomorrow, but this was one of those random weeks where I was able to record super early. So I actually recorded that episode on October 31st. And obviously he had not passed. And so I did not want to have a week or so go by and not send my condolences and not talk about Takeoff. And I definitely wanted to just do this in the moment, current, and just really discuss him. And I didn't want to wait. So long story short, so I wouldn't have been able to say that tomorrow in tomorrow's episode, and I didn't want to just add it in the info line and then talk about it next week. So that's why I'm doing this in addition to my normal podcast episode tomorrow. So it feels, even to say that he was tragically passed or murdered or whatever, I can say it, but it still feels like, what am I saying? He was only 28, super young, and that really affected me, and I don't know how much I'm going to get into, and I don't even know if I fully understand. I think I do know why it affected me so much, but yeah, I just wanted to talk about, send my condolences and celebrate him as a person and an artist, and just kind of talk about it and process that. And huge fan of the Migos, so I think that's why this one hit me really super hard. And so Takeoff. The Migos, I was trying to, right before I recorded this, I was trying to figure out like when I knew about them, but like when did I become a fan of theirs? And so I think I figured that it was probably around 2000. Let me get the date correct. I'm glad I checked, because I was going to definitely say the wrong date. It was around 2015, and it was around their Dab song. And I had definitely heard previous music, but it was something about that really caught my eye about them. And then it was up from there. And I've seen them. Here's the thing, and I've mentioned this before. I stopped counting. I don't know how many concerts I've been to. Let's just say 70 plus. They are running into each other, where I really can't remember sometimes how many times I've seen an artist. I've definitely seen them twice, but I feel like I've seen Migos 3 times. I know I've seen them headline a show, and I know I've seen them with Future, but I feel like there was another show. And it just was something about them. It's obviously their sound. We all know, they talk about it, we talk about it. They changed the culture. They gave us something different than what we had been hearing. And they were just 3 young, there's a word in my brain, that's not the word. I would say 3 young, confident black men with swag, and just like everything about them was just like, yo, they just dope. And their music sounded good. Play it in the car, go to the clubs. And then when you saw them in interviews, Quavo and Offset, they were the more extroverted, the more talkative, etc. And actually around this time, initially Offset was incarcerated, so it was I first was introduced and really started following them when it was just mostly you would only see, excuse me, you would only see Takeoff and Quavo, because that was the time when they really started blowing up, right? Offset was incarcerated, and then he came out, and then that's when like Culture One and Bad and Bougie, and then it was just like they were just super mega superstars. But right when it really started happening for them, unfortunately, that's when Offset was incarcerated. But you know, when I started learning about them, it's just like, yo, like I'm enjoying this, and the Versace song with Drake, and just but Takeoff was always, I love them all three in their own way, because they all have their own distinct style, their own distinct personalities. But Takeoff was just that confident, quiet, cool guy. And he never used to really talk. And people used to be like, yo, Takeoff, never. Yo, he didn't. He had since in recent years, I think he probably got tired of people saying that he never talks. But he was an introvert. And that's okay. As an introvert myself, bruh, it's okay to talk when you feel like you need or want to talk. But he was the best Migos, and they would say, I'm gonna tell you, his rapping ability was just top notch. Quavo would tell you he was the best Migos. There's multiple interviews with that. Offset would tell you. Quavo will tell you Takeoff was the one that really was always serious about rapping, and studied the craft, and just, you know, and really even pushed them and motivated them when they wasn't even really trying to take rapping seriously. So I saw something somewhere that was like Takeoff was that glue, the binding, the force, the binding factor, and he really was. And the thing about that was such an amazing and beautiful bond was between Quavo and Takeoff. Quavo is the uncle, Takeoff is the nephew, and then Offset is the cousin. They all were like brothers, but when you saw Quavo, you saw Takeoff. They literally lived together, like they were just joined at the hip. And so to have this happen, and Quavo was there when it happened, I just know they're all hurting immensely. But I just know Quavo's got a whole different set of hurt, because he literally is going to have these images in his head, and just they were like brothers. But I think almost, I think Takeoff looked up to Quavo in certain ways, and I think, you know, Quavo almost had a fatherly bond with Takeoff. He always just had Takeoff under his wing. They were always together. So Tuesday, I'm at work, and I not even within the first hour, I'm just on my phone, whatever, and I just happen to go to Instagram, and someone posts, and I just see Takeoff, and I'm like, okay, you know, and then I see R.I.P., and I'm like, I know you lying. What is this? I know that. I was like, okay, because I hadn't seen. I just literally, like, that was the crazy part, is that was the first post. And I scroll. I was like, let me go. And usually, whenever I see that something may have happened, like really horrific to someone, I go straight to TMZ. It took me a while to go to TMZ, and I think that was just me. Because TMZ usually has confirmation first before anybody else. When I tell you I stayed away from TMZ like the plague, but I did go to Shade Room, and at that time it still was like, we're hearing reports. But it was just so much that it was like, this can't be. Something definitely happened to Takeoff. But I hope somebody comes out from their camp and say he okay, and it just kept getting grimmer and grimmer. And when I tell you Tuesday, I could not focus at work. I was so, and then it was obviously confirmed. PD made I don't know the full timeline of everything right now, but it was confirmed. And I was just so sad, and I mean, just, If I thought, and I stayed on my phone, and that was not helpful. I tell you this, I did not watch no videos. I did not, and what happened was, on certain platforms, if you stay there too long, you will see it. And I was like, oh, nope, nope, nope. Well, let me get into that later. This is not going to be sensical. This is totally going to be internal rambles. Like, I am just speaking from my heart and from my brain. Ain't nothing planned about this. This is just, it is what it is. So, this will definitely be train of thought all over the place, but I'm going to try to hone it in a bit. But I was just so sad, and it's like you would think you would stay off your phone, so but I think that it was just like so unbelievable, but then it just was like, what is happening? And it reminded me of, and I spoke about this before, unfortunately what's been happening is we all know a lot of particularly rappers within the recent years have been getting tragically killed. Just recently, PNB Rock, obviously Nipsey, Young Dolph. I mean, I could keep going, of course, unfortunately. And it's always sad, but when I tell you, I was so sad and just like if I thought ruminated a little bit too much, started really getting emotional, I was like, child, when is this work day getting over? Literally had to call my mom, and my mom, I was talking to her. She's like, girl, what you talking? Like, she thought I was talking about something else, and so I had to call her, and then I had to talk to her. That helped. It reminded me of when Tupac died, and I've talked about this. That really hurt me. I got emotional. My friend called me. She was like, and she knew I loved Tupac. She's like, did you hear about Tupac? I was like, child, what about Tupac? And when she told me, I was like, oh God, I was so that's the only one that I would say Tupac and Aaliyah and I was definitely sad about Biggie too, but the ones that I think I had the most emotional reaction to, off the top of my head that I can think of, were those two. And I was trying to think, like, why was I so emotionally affected? And I think it's just, it's tragic, right? Takeoff was the one, not that, and no one deserves to die and have their life taken away, but so sweet, so unproblematic. He used to have this saying, and I even say it about myself. He's like, I just stack and pray and stay out the way. And that's literally how he lived his life. So I think it was just a shock of like, what happened to Takeoff? Like, sweet, quiet, don't bother nobody. Takeoff he was what? And I've literally just seen him grow up. And it's just, as a fan, loved him, loved his music. You see, just like he's always been so talented, but then he just keeps getting better. It's like when you think like, yo, he's dope, but no, he just keeps. He was so incredible, but it's like, yo, like who knows where he could have went, and he didn't even get to hit 30, and it just, I mean, so many things that I just kept thinking of, but then I'm just thinking about his family and his loved ones, and just, it's not, and I mentioned this, I don't really go into it. I've experienced a lot of loss in life. I know what it's like to get that phone call of your loved one that something tragic has happened to them, and that is just, and it's not something that doesn't ever leave you. It's undescribable, and it's so sad when someone dies, but when someone's taken away from you, I can't. So it was just sympathy. I think I was triggered. Honestly, I'm gonna tell you that. I think it was sadness for Takeoff, sadness for his loved ones, and then I was just my own personal stuff, I think, was kicking up. And that's the thing about grief. Grief is not linear. Why am I getting emotional right now? Jesus Lord. Grief is not linear, so you never know when something's going to affect you. But it doesn't. It gets better where you're able to handle it. But it doesn't ever really fully go away. And so I think it was just hitting all points for me. And when you see like people that knew him, and there was someone, I don't remember who posted this, who said if you knew Takeoff, you cried tears on Tuesday. And I didn't know him personally, but I definitely got emotional about it. I'm even getting, just sad all over again about it. And, but he just seemed like the sweetest person, and just so many people have been reporting how like sweet he was. And I didn't watch the full one of Fat Joe's lives, and he was like, Khaled was just talking to me, and he was like, Takeoff always would check in with me, tell me he loves me, check and see how the family was doing. That was just how he was. And Metro Boomin, who's a producer, he's been posting the most loveliest things about him, and how like he was really a friend to him, and not because they were in the industry, like a genuine friend. And if you know anything about Metro Boomin, Metro's mother was murdered early this year, so he's just probably having another just time and a half processing another significant loss in his life. But he posted this really sweet message that Takeoff sent him, and Takeoff just saying, listen, I don't know, I don't have the words to ease your pain, but I love you. And he sent him a Bible verse, and it was just like the sweetest, just loveliest, most genuine message. And Metro was like, whenever I saw Takeoff, he would always hug me and tell me he loved me, and not because like we were departing. Like at some point throughout the time we were together, he always made sure to tell me that he loved me and to hug me. And it's just like all these sweet things, like, that he just seemed like the sweetest young man. And so I am just very, very sad that this happened to him. No one deserves to have their life taken away, but in particular, Takeoff just seemed like a lovely young man and so talented. And so I'm just going to miss being able to potentially see him perform again and just see his smiling face on TV. He was always smiling. And I will always play his music and remember. And I wanted to do, I don't know if I was like, okay, maybe I could do like a top. I still need to do my top 5, whatever. It's like, maybe I can do like my top 5 songs of hit. I don't know. I don't think I'm in the head. I don't think I'm in the headspace to do that. And I want to be intentional when I do that. I will say one of my favorite songs where like Takeoff just like took off is Migos' song Deads with 2 Chainz. That song, Takeoff killed that song. That's the first song I always think of like that showcases how incredible of a hip hop artist and rapper he was. But I just wanted to talk about, and just like you see Take on, whenever you see him perform, he got his dance moves, and just Takeoff as him, and he was unapologetically him, and just a great artist. And it's so sad, but I'm glad that he was able to do it. He did a drink, him and oh God, Jesus, I'm sorry, him and Quavo did a drink champs recently, where he said, he wants his flowers while he's alive, not because he's passed. And that was literally just a few weeks ago, like recently, within the last month that aired. I don't know when they recorded it. But Nori gave him his flowers, and there's been, the interviews have been really super lovely during that time. And so I hope he felt the love that we as fans had for him. And I know his family, and they were a tight-knit unit, and I just I hope he did feel that. And it's shocking. I'm very sad about it, and I've just been praying for him and his family and loved ones, and that's that. I just wanted to just take the time to really just give my condolences to his loved ones, and just talk about how much I really appreciated him as an artist. And I pray for him and his family. And yeah, I didn't want to not do it, and I didn't want to wait a week. And I just I just wanted to speak on Takeoff, and he is going to be missed, but he will definitely live on. His music will definitely live on. He made a huge, in a short period of time, he made a huge impact on the music industry. So much so that I'm like, I can't, I gotta speak on and just share how much I loved him as an artist. And I thought he was, from what I could tell, and people say, well, how can you care about somebody than me? Because I have a heart, and I've followed him as a career, and he just seemed like a really, I don't know him personally, but he seemed like a really incredible person. So yes, I am very sad that he passed, and at such a young age. And so yeah, I just wanted to send my condolences and just speak on what what an incredible person, an artist, what person he seemed to be, and an artist that he was. So I wanted to. I've always said how much of a fan I was. I believe I gave him his flowers while he was alive, and I want to continue to do that. So that's that. So I'm gonna end there. I don't think I can talk too much more. But yeah, I mean, take care of yourselves, man. I say it all the time, and stay safe, and tell your loved ones that you love them, because no day is promised. And I appreciate all of you. I always say that, and I really truly do mean that. And I do want you all to take care of yourselves, and I'm going to do the best to do that for myself too. And until I speak to y'all again, this is Rochelle. Talk to you soon.